welcome everybody. Sorry for the slight delay. It's been a little while since I did this, and apparently the computer needed to dust off its memory of how to work. I think I was doing everything right, but it required turning it off and back on again. It's been a little while since the last, whatever we call these things, MandoLessons Live. So long that I can't remember what I call them. Been out at Main Fiddle Camp for a long time, and that always takes it out of me. It's always a great time. And I'm going to catch up with the chat here, but if you're new here, the way this works is pretty informal. It's a great time for some questions and answers. Whatever you got on your mind, whatever you're working on, I love hearing what you're up to. So throw out your questions. I'll do my best to answer them. I'll do my best to take requests. Right off the bat, we've got a request for Daly's Reel in B flat. I've never learned that tune. It's a great tune, but I don't know how to play it. So I can't help you out there, but maybe I'll try to learn it for a future MandoLessons Live. I think that one's, it might be a traditional tune. It might not. But in general, I can only do traditional music because the YouTube algorithm will find out if I'm doing covers and throw ads all over my videos and cause me all kinds of problems. But let's see who's here. We got Lewis, back home safe in Evansville, Indiana. Great to have you up at Main Fiddle Camp. Lewis and I were just hanging out for a week and had a good time in Mando class. And it was great to finally meet you. And I'm glad you got home safe. Sheldon, Audie, Denise, Pelican 3, Tim Kennedy, Jay Vincent, Cincy River Rats, Dan's Tune, Francois, Bert, Stephen, Frederick, Cynthia, Gary, Tidies, Scott, Pepper, what is jumping on me here? Pepper Patch, David Shaw, Tim Kennedy, I might be doing these multiple times now, O'Reilly, Jeff, hi, Ritika, good to have you all here. Excellent. Now I'm going to catch up with anyone saying anything in particular. Started out with a tune called Soldier's Joy, which is going to be our jam tune of the week. So by the end of this session, we're going to play it all together. So as I'm talking and answering questions, feel free to get your mandolin out and get it all tuned up, because at the end we're going to play Soldier's Joy together and jam on it a little bit. Let's see here. Catching up on the chat. Man, if I have technical difficulties, it makes for a lot more chat and a lot more people to chime in on where they're coming from. It's great. We got people from all over the world. That's today's tune. Soldier's Joy, yep, today's tune. I think there was a little confusion as to whether it was Soldier's Joy or Cliffs of Moher. And I can't remember which one it was because it's been so long. So I decided on Soldier's Joy, and next week will be Cliffs of Moher. Cool. Denise says got to see Mike Marshall and Katarina Lichtenberg, Don Sternberg, John Reichman, and Sierra Hull at the Marshall Mandolin Summit. I've heard awesome things about that. I wish I could have made it out. Hopefully one year I'll make it out that direction. She says it was Mando Heaven, very small venue, 260 seats, row 8 center. Awesome. $38. What a bargain. Oh, all right. Bert says, I'm impatiently waiting on FedEx to bring my Pava. Well, I'll understand if you have to duck out at some point, because that's always an exciting day to get a new instrument. Ritika says, how are you feeling? Yeah, I was a little under the weather last week. I got home from Fiddle Camp, and Fiddle Camp is 2 straight weeks. It's 2 separate week-long sessions, but as an instructor, I do both weeks. And I usually get sick at the end of it just from not sleeping enough and staying up too late playing music. But I'm feeling much better now. Had a little bit of a sore throat, but I'm back to 100%. Feeling great. Glad to be back doing these live sessions. All right, Simone, good to have you here from Auburn. Can't stop playing Gray Eagle. You're just down the road from me. Yeah, great. I'll play a little Grey Eagle because I haven't played that tune in a while, and I'll send out a link when the time is right. But I just recorded a friend of mine who's a great old time fiddle player. She came over and I recorded an album for her of just solo old time fiddle, and I've been enjoying listening to it all day as I got set up for this. And she plays a tune that kind of reminds me of Grey Eagle, so I had that tune in my head, so I'll play a little now. Having a little trouble with the foot switch today. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of Grey Eagle. Great tune I learned from the playing of Raina Gellert. I'm going to make sure, but I got to ask Bert here, unless he already said, what kind of mandolin are you getting? It's the Pava. Are you getting an A style, F hole, oval hole? Inquiring minds need to know. We've got a lot of Mando enthusiasts probably dying to know what you got coming, and if it does come during this hour, fill us in. All right, let's see. Catching up with the chat here. Steven says, I see you have a trombone decoration, or can you play? Neither. Well, I mean, it does look nice. It's a nice bit of decoration, but my partner Emma plays the trombone. I do not. I stick to stringed instruments. I guess except for a little bit of button accordion. Hello from Chattanooga. Aria, good to have you here. Irene as well. A style F hole wide nut torrified. Cool. Fully torrified or just the top? It seems like recently a lot of people are doing fully torrified instruments, but it seems like it started out just with the top. But either way, that's going to be a great sounding mandolin. So, congratulations. And then somebody was talking. Yeah, Rhea says I play a J Bovier and love it. I played one of those for maybe the first time, or at least the first time in recent memory, at fiddle camp. It was a great mandolin. Those J Boviers are great, and I haven't seen too many of them around. But the one that I played at camp was awesome. It sounded really good. Denise has a great question. What is torrified? So that's when it's a process of kind of, I don't know if it's with UV light or kind of actually like baking. It's also called like a baked top. And what it does is it kind of dries out the wood to imitate an older, drier instrument. So it kind of pre-ages the wood by drying it out, and makes it sound a little older, because a lot of the, the older the wood is, the more moisture has seeped out over the years, and this is a way of kind of speeding up that process. And luthiers are getting into that in the last 10 years, and I've only played a couple torrefied instruments, but they've been really, really nice. Let's see. Ritika says, did you check out the MandoLessons email I sent you on how to get your website more accessible for screen readers? I have that email. I really appreciate you sending that along. I do have that one starred. I'm way behind on email because of Maine Fiddle Camp. It's 2 weeks in the woods, so my email is currently a pretty disaster zone, but I love getting that sort of information, and I'm definitely going to look into those. Ritika sent me a great set of links and information on getting MandoLessons set up to work for people who have visual impairments and use screen readers so they can hear what's on the website rather than see it. And I'm really looking forward to getting into that and hopefully implementing some of that stuff. All right, let's catch up here. Cool. Rosalind Carlin says, just pulled out a mandolin my mom bought me 25 years ago, hoping to try it. Here I am trying it. Glad to hear it. It's always great to have instruments making music rather than sitting around collecting dust. So I applaud your effort to get it out and start plunking on it. It's a lot of fun, and I bet you'll be making good music in no time. Oh. Kabayoth says, greetings from Colorado. There's a Michael Kelly mandola for about $500 locally that needs a fret level. Is it worth the additional work, or should I be looking for something else? I don't know the Michael Kellys all that much. I haven't played one in years. I've never played a mandola of theirs. I think there's a couple ways you could go about it. You could figure out what a fret level is going to cost from your local shop, and then see if that's kind of worth the price. And if it's, if it costs another $100 or something, I don't know exactly what it would cost. Or if it, costs more than you're willing to spend combined with the cost of the instrument, you could maybe try to bargain with the seller and say, look, this needs a little bit of work. I'm happy to buy it from you, but if we can make everybody happy, that might be a way to see if you can get a little bit of a discount since it needs the work. I think also Eastman has started making a mandola. I don't know much about it, but you could also look into that. I'm not super well read on mandolas, so maybe somebody here has some information, or you can always check over at Mandolin Cafe. The forum over there is full of very well educated folks. Ibanez or low-end lore for a starter mandolin from Matthew. I would, it depends. I would say if you can get your hands on them, try them both. My instinct is telling me to go for a low-end lore. I have played a couple lores that I've liked pretty well. I don't know, that said, instruments can vary. But I think lore's doing good stuff. So that's kind of my off-the-cuff answer, but again, ask that sort of stuff over on Mandolin Cafe in the forum, and you might get some more educated answers. Something is wrong with the volume. Okay, that's good to know. Is it too loud, too soft? Let me know. Okay, somebody says volume's fine for me. What tempo do people mean when they say dance tempo? I had a fiddle teacher say 120 beats per minute. And yes, that's what I sort of assume as dance tempo. Is that 2/2 time? I always forget how to talk about the rhythmic idea behind beats per minute, because I'm not a huge music. I don't really understand that stuff on a music theory level. But to me, I'd say this is around 120. Or yeah. what I always learned was you can say keep the beat, 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 and that's usually kind of at a pretty fast time of saying that. You're probably going to end up around 120. So let's see if I find my handy dandy little, wherever it is, metronome. Nope, that's not it. There it is. So I'm going to go beat, keep the 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 beat. 118. I was close. So that's kind of what I think of. So if you take a well-known tune, like if Soldier's Joy at 120 would probably be. So it's fairly fast. And you know so that's what I would play for contra dances is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about dance tempo there. It can be a little different, maybe even a little faster with kind of old time square dances. Some places will, I'd say 120 is the upper end of the spectrum for a contra dance. Some places will play. Which is maybe more around like 110, 105. And then if you're just playing for yourself or with friends, there's nobody dancing, if you get slower than that for people dancing, it's not kind of a comfortable way to walk. And you kind of want like a lively walking step, which is where that 120 or so comes from. But if you're just playing with friends, I usually don't play quite that fast, but it depends. Great question though. And I don't remember exactly how to, whether it's 2/2 or what the kind of music theory side of what gets the beat there. Hello from Bogota, Colombia. Thanks so much for watching. Glad you could join us. Bert says, I heard if you saw a frog and a trombone player driving down the road, the frog was more likely headed to a gig. But I do like a trombone. BS, Vosters, good to see you here. I'm glad to be back. Lance from Baltimore, good to have you. Banks of the Ohio, sure, I can do a little bit of that. And Beck, good to have you back as well. Good to be here. Have you ever heard of restringing a baritone uke in octave mandolin tuning? I have. I think they even sell. I think if you look up, I don't know if it's on like Just Strings or you could ask in the mandolin forum. I think they even sell a specific set at this point of strings that'll get a baritone uke to octave mandolin tuning. It's really fun. It's a nice mellow sound. I don't have one myself, but I have played around with one strung that way. It's very fun. All right. Volume's good here. Glad to hear it. Bought a cheap €100 mandolin to take along to festivals, but it's shocking how much different it is compared to my Eastman. Yeah, there's a lot of the kind of, that's why, I often feel bad, the kind of beginner mandolin that I kind of tell people to get on my website, and I'm not sponsored by Kentucky, but I tell them to get like the KM 150, which is an all solid Kentucky mandolin, and it's a great mandolin, but it is, I think, around $400 now if you get it in like a kit with a gig bag and stuff. And I wish I could say, buy this $100 mandolin, but I've never really found a $100 mandolin that I've really been wowed with. If I ever do find one, I'll let you know, but it's tricky. Have you ever had the chance to play a Hind mandolin? I have not. Cool. David downloaded the Old Time Mandolin album, my Old Time Mandolin album, which is a solo mandolin album of all old time tunes I put out a little while ago. He says he's loving it. Thanks so much. Which I guess brings up a thank you, because I know a bunch of you here are Patreon supporters who support me on my Patreon page. And we just passed a great milestone. We're now over 400 patrons, which is amazing, totally mind-blowing. It's the reason I'm able to do stuff like these live streams and put out a lesson every week. Between the Patreon supporters and PayPal donations, it makes it so I can keep doing this channel, which I love to do. And so thank you all so much. And part of that kind of crossing the 400 patron threshold is anyone who's a patron before or after the threshold. If you become a patron now, or if you already are a patron, you can now download that Old Time Mandolin album of mine for free. Or I guess for the whatever you choose to donate. And Patreon is kind of a monthly subscription, but as low as $2 a month, you get the Old Time Mandolin album complimentary, along with lessons early, access to patron-only live streams, all sorts of stuff over there. Flop-eared mule. Okay, well, it just jumped. Okay, I'm almost caught up with the chat here. I love seeing the chat lighten up. Always good. Can you talk about substituting two-string double stops for chords in a song? Yes. I'm going to just catch up with the chat because I'm so close, but then I'll talk about two-string double stops. Can you do a lesson about Jitterbug Blues? I don't know that one, but I'll look it up. Can you do Chicken Reel or Sop in the Gravy? I don't know either of those, at least not by name. Oh yeah, Flop-eared Mule. I will do that all day. So I'll do Banks of the Ohio, Flop-eared Mule. Will I be doing a lesson on Cider? I think I already have, because it's on my album, and all the tracks on my album have lessons on my website. So I'm pretty sure it's already on my website. I can just check to make sure. Yeah, it's on my website. So yeah, it's there. I'd say go learn it. It's a great tune, one of my favorites. Yeah, so Tim got the KM150 from Elderly, which has a whole kit put together. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of those come through. They've all been excellent. And if you ever get one that's not as it should be, Elderly is going to be great about making it right for you. Versus, they look at everything and they set it all up and get it dialed right in. Whereas if you buy it on eBay or through some warehouse, you never quite know what you're going to get. All right, let's see. I'm going to play a little bit of Cider, a little bit of Banks of the Ohio. Oops, that's Cider. I'll do a little of that too. Flop-eared mule go? Here it is. There it is, a little bit of a bunch of stuff. I did Thanks to the Ohio to start out and swapped into tunes before it got too gruesome. That song's a little little violent. A beautiful melody with some disturbing words. But then I thought I was going to do Flop-eared Mule, but I played Cider instead because that was at the top of my head. And then I played Flop-eared Mule. One of my favorite tunes of all time. Both of those tunes are top of my list. And then I had a question from Tim. Who did this come from? Somebody asked about double stoppy 2-string chords. Morgan said, can you talk about substituting 2-string double stops for chords in a song? So I think what you're talking about here is, I was doing a little bit of that with like I was doing it with I'll use Flop-eared Mule. So I think the question is about taking a melody and rather than playing just straight melody, finding places to throw little double stops in to kind of thicken up the sound a little bit and spice things up. So what I like to do with Flop-eared Mule, the melody is going that F sharp, 2nd fret on the E string, 2 quarter notes of that, and then 2 quarter notes of D on the A string. So that's it's the best spot to throw in double stops is when you have longer notes or more space in a tune, rather than trying to throw it into that's a long string of short notes. So I'm going to take that sort of slower phrase and I can throw it into some double stops. So the first double stop I'm going to use, and what I'm really doing here is I'm playing the melody on the A string on the 9th fret, and I'm playing a high harmony, which is the 5th fret on the E string. So 9 on the A, 5 on the E. And then I'm sliding down to another double stop. Our melody note still on the A string, 5th fret, and our harmony note is the 2nd fret on the E string. So we have 9 and 5, and then 5 and 2. And putting that in context sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. Another spot that I'm using it, and that I often use double stops, is when chords change. So right at the beginning of Flop-eared Mule here, we have a D chord, and it's a D all the way through, and then we have an A chord for... So I might take that first little bit of where the A chord comes in, so it'd be dee 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 deedle deedle dee dee deedle A. And I'm gonna, And sometimes you need to adjust the melody to get a double stop to ring out a little bit more. So rather than playing the strict melody, which is, again, on the D string, 2nd fret, I'm going to add my double stop there. So my double stop is 6th fret on the G string, the C sharp, and 2nd fret on the D string, which is an E. It's an A double stop. You can play all the strings with the 2 open A and E strings. You get a nice thick A chord. But right now, we're just going to use that as a double stop, and it becomes, so rather than 20245, we're going to play, so it's just 3 strums of that double stop is replacing, we have, and now we've got 2 spots to add double stops. I'll play that whole section. 2, 4. And that just kind of thickens up the sound a little bit. That's a great question. I hope that's what you were after. Alright, let's see. Clean up the chat a little bit. Okay, I'm way behind on the chat again, just how I like it. Ritika says, I got a Rogue mandolin from some friends years back, and it's gotten me started, but I can't wait to get out of high school and get a much better mandolin. Yeah, it's always fun to get something that plays a little easier and sounds more like you want it to. How would you do a slow tune like Tennessee Waltz? I'll pick something that's not Tennessee Waltz because that's copyrighted. But I'll do a Tom Bigby Waltz, which is on my website. How does this tune go? How does this work? Oh yeah, there it is. So Tom Bigby Waltz, the basic melody. I think you're maybe asking kind of like how would I dress up a tune that's slower? Maybe a waltz has a lot of space to fill. You add some double stops. So the basic melody, and again, this is on my website, sounds like this. And so, like in Tennessee Waltz, it's a fairly repetitive same line, slightly different but so what you can do is you can add some double stops that have a little descending line below. So there's a little bit of that. You can kind of do that chord melody stuff that I talk about in my double stop series. over on the website in the Technique and Fundamentals section. Are you planning a lesson on Banks of the Ohio? I'm not. I could look into that though. It's a good song. Newer Washburn mandolins. I don't have a whole lot of experience with those, but maybe other folks here do. Cool. Ritika had good experience with the hind or hind mandolin. Cool. It's always fun to find something you like. Kabayath says that mandolin you have has some serious neck dive. I don't know what that means. Is that more common with an A-style mandolin, or is there another culprit at work here? I don't know what you mean by neck dive, but if you can elaborate, I'm happy to talk about it. I have a Flatbush mandolin in my hand the other day, even better than a couple Gibsons they had at the store. 2,000 euros. Yep, they get expensive fast. Clinch Mountain Backstep. Maybe, if I can remember how it goes. Something like this. A little bit of Clinch Mountain Backstep. It's a great tune, a little bit crooked. It's very similar to something else that I play a little more often. I can't remember quite what it is. A little like Sandy Boys or something. I can't remember, but it's fun. Ritika has a great question. Any tips on figuring out chords by ear? I want to make a whole lesson on this. And this is something that Lewis and I and the mandolin students at Maine Fiddle Camp, I almost said Maine Mandolin Camp, which was a skit that we did where it was all mandolins. So it was like 8 mandolins on stage playing a bunch of different tunes at the same time. But that's besides the point. I want to do a video on this, but kind of the short version, I would say, is, you know, find the chord that you're starting with, and then you can really just use your ears and kind of play that chord until it doesn't sound good anymore. So let's say you're doing Banks of the Ohio in D. I told my love to... no, let's see. Won't you, darling, say that you'll be mine. And you get to mine and you're still playing a D chord. Mine. Doesn't sound very good. And you can say, okay, well, in the key of D, what are my 2 other major chords? And you've got a G and an A. Mine. G doesn't work too well. A. Mine. There, that sounds much better. So you know you have to change at mine. You tried G, that didn't work. It was a 50-50 choice between G and A. G didn't work, so it's an A chord. So now you go from D to A on mine. Darling, say, won't you be mine? In our home, we'll happy be, be. Go back to D on B. Down beside where the waters flow, flow, flow. G there. On the bank of the really just kind of finding that first chord and then using your ears can do a lot for kind of figuring out chords by ear. And the more you practice, the better you get and the quicker it comes. David says, can you talk a bit about forearm rests? So I think you're talking about the arm rest right here. They're not a necessity by any means. I just kind of got into the habit of using one. A mandolin I had before this one actually had really sharp binding, and it was like physically uncomfortable for me to have my arm touching the instrument. It would just kind of like rip up my arm a little bit. So I got into using arm rests. I like them because I find that they do very slightly kind of put your hand in a better position to kind of sit over the strings, a little more comfortable than the side of the instrument. That said, they're not a necessity by any means, but they're out there if you want to give them a try. Wednesday Night Waltz in D. I do not know that one. Rattlin' Bog. I don't know if I could really pull that one off the top of my head. Tidy says, what's the waltz you played? Tom Bigby Waltz. Oh, and then Tim covered it. Thank you, Tim. It's on my website if you want to learn it. There's also a version on my solo banjo album. I don't think it's on my mandolin album, but it's on my banjo album. Neck dive is where the headstock constantly rolls toward the floor. Oh, okay, I see. It's more common in guitar. So I think what you mean is like when I let go of the instrument, it does that. Yep. So there's a couple things kind of at work there. It kind of is a trade-off between what you have. You have like a heavy headstock that's kind of changing the center of balance of the instrument. F styles just have more weight to them around the instrument. You know, they've got a couple points that are full of solid wood. They've got the scroll, which is also adding more weight to the instrument, and that's got solid wooden sides, so it shifts the center of balance of the instrument back this way, so the headstock won't fall as much. It still happens on F styles, but also there's, you know, a bunch of other different, like how slippery is the back of your mandolin? Do you have a tone guard, which is a little cage that goes on back? How wide is your strap? I've got a pretty thin strap that I've had forever, so it's pretty slick leather at this point, so it doesn't hold itself up as much, but you know, if I let go gently, it stays right there. It kind of varies from instrument to instrument and person to person, kind of how high up you have the instrument. Some people have the instrument kind of touching their legs, which will stop it a little more. Things like that. And guitars, definitely, you know, they have a longer neck, so they've got even a further out center of balance towards the neck, so they're definitely going to do the same thing. Cluck old hen. Huh. Yeah, I see that. It's got a little bit of that sound. Tips on figuring out chop chords like in a jam. I would say, you know, use that same idea I was just talking about. You're gonna, you know, kind of do it by ear, wait until it doesn't sound good anymore, and then another good thing you can do, and I've got some lessons on my website on learning what guitar chords look like. So if you're in a jam, there's likely a guitar player, and learning, you know, what a chord looks like on the guitar. You know, so if you're playing Banks of the Ohio, knowing that this is a D chord, this is a G chord, and this is an A chord. So just, you know, you don't need to know how to play them on the guitar, but if you just recognize visually what they look like, you can follow guitar players. And then also I don't have a capo handy, but well, maybe I do. Another thing that's helpful to do is learn how, like, kind of the idea behind a capo. So if somebody's got a capo on the second fret and they're playing a C chord, it's the same as a D chord. And then F chord becomes a G chord, and G becomes an A chord. So if you can kind of understand how a capo works, and how to read a capoed guitar and different guitar chord shapes, then you can follow the guitar player and know what chords are happening. And then in terms of actually getting them in as chop chords, that's just knowing your chop chord shapes. So kind of figuring out that classic chop shape and learning to move it around and what chords come out when you move it. see. Let's get ready to play a little. I gotta head out at 1, so let's get ready to play a little bit of that Soldier's Joy. But I'll catch up with the chat here for a couple more minutes because I'm almost caught up, and then we'll play a little Soldier's Joy. When you do Blackberry Blossom, can you do it in G in 2 octaves? I'll try. I'll see how far I can get. I don't think you'll be able to get the whole thing, but so right off the bat, thinking about that tune, anytime it goes below the G on the D string means you can't play notes below that an octave down. So we're good there, so I can play that down an octave. And then we have, which is a lot below, so you have to mix it up. So you have to kind of start improvising when you run out of notes that go down. So I might do something like this. And then the B part, same thing. It starts from that E on the D string and then jumps up an octave. So you can't play that. So you could kind of fake it a little bit and go like. So it's not the easiest tune to drop an octave. I guess you could go up, but then you're spending the whole time way up the instrument. And I like going down rather than up. It's a little easier, and I feel like the high octave, kind of the octave that tunes are normally played in, is plenty high on a mandolin or a fiddle. And usually I like to add a little bit of depth to the sound by going down rather than up. Dan says that triple O Yamaha sounds and looks great. Thanks. I'm very happy with that. I found that guitar at Goodwill a couple weeks ago. That was my best Goodwill find in a little while. Okay, last question, and then we'll play a little bit of Soldier's Joy. Kabayath, apologies that I probably am not doing your screen name any services. Says, from guitar to mandolin, the chord that puzzles me is an A. A 2-finger A chord. On a mandolin, do you mean? Sounds like an A minor. Am I playing the wrong chord? So the way I play, I'll do it on both just because I'm not sure which you're talking about. So a classic A chord on the mandolin is 2-2 open open. And that's actually neither major or minor. And what makes it major or minor is the A string, where you're going to have 4th fret. 2-2-4 open, that's major. And then 2-2-3 open is a minor chord. So we have kind of, you can call a power chord or a 5 chord because there's no third in the chord. So it's not major or minor. Major is 4, minor is 3. And on a guitar, you kind of got the same thing going. I use 2 fingers on a guitar. You can use 3 as well. How do people do it? So there's an A chord on a guitar. It's really open E, open A, second, 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 and then open E. I play that by just getting 2 strings with 1 finger. And then a minor chord, the way I play it is, you can get that 5, because that's not major or minor. And so you can also play it with more fingers. There's a quick little talk about A chords. All right. Hey, PhotoFin, good to have you here. Or Ted, rather. Oh, yeah, you haven't missed that many because I haven't really been doing them. It's been a little while. I was off at Fiddle Camp, but now I'm back. This is the first one in several weeks, maybe close to a month. But good to have you here. All right, let's play a little bit of Soldier's Joy and call it a day. So, Soldier's Joy, classic tune in the key of D. Somebody was also just telling me there's some nice other names for it that I can't remember. There are some other nice names for this tune. Key of D, it's on my website. If you don't know the tune, see if you can pick up a little bit of it as we go. If you do know the tune and you're kind of still working on it, this is a great way to practice. Just playing it through a bunch of times and getting it nice and solid under your fingers. If you've been playing Soldier's Joy for years, see if you can challenge yourself by doing a little improvisation, adding double stops, melodic variation, things like that. Kind of take this tune and try to push yourself wherever you're at with it. And if you don't know it at all and want to learn it later, it is on my website. And so what'll happen here is we'll play it through a couple times. I'll start out playing the melody. You can play the chords or the melody along with me. Then I'll play the chords so you can play the melody. We'll swap back and forth. I'll do a little bit of soloing, and we'll end it. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then A2. B. A2, B2, sorry. You take it. A2. B1. B2. Play it one more time. I'll try to play some harmony. B part. the soldier's joy. David says, would you ever consider doing a jam session on all of the songs we've been learning from the live sessions? That's an interesting idea. It would take a long time because there's been like 50 sessions at this point. But that would be fun. Quickly, I use a 1.5 millimeter large triangle. It's made by Dunlop. It's a Dunlop Prime Tone. But there's lots of great picks out there. I recommend, spending $10, getting a nice handful of different picks and seeing what you like the best, or just going to a guitar store and seeing if you can try them out. What were you doing on the offbeat? I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. But David, there's also what I've been doing is jams for a lot of the songs on my website for a lot of the fiddle tunes that I teach. I'm trying to do kind of jam along versions, so you can find those on my website and on the YouTube channel, and also kind of simple to complex videos you've probably seen where I start out simple and then add in double stops and melodic variations, kind of talk through what I'm doing. Yeah, maybe just 3 at a time. Yeah, or maybe do a couple more, but it would be hard to do all of them at once. That would turn into hours and hours. But it'd be fun. So thank you all so much. Next week is going to be Cliffs of Moher. I think I'm going to be around. Let me just make sure. Oh, I might not be here. I'm going to have to check and see. So a little iffy for next week. We'll see how it all pans out. But thank you all so much for joining. Great, as always, to have you all in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Tune for next week is Cliffs of Moher. A jig. It's on my website. Just want to make sure I'm not leaving anything behind. Cool. Alrighty. Have a good one. See you next time. Bye-bye.